Thank you, Greg, and Phil. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, what could you tell us about what you saw from Rasheed Walker on film last year, and what do you see as kind of his upside as a young guy who's already played a lot of football?
Yeah, he's athletic. He has great feet. He's strong. He has a great punch when he uses it, and you could tell that he's nasty. He tries to finish his blocks. For a young talent, I'm excited to get him when he's young and mold him, into what he feels like he's going to be. And I know his goals, and I'm going to do everything I can to get to his goals. So he's a really good player that I'm excited to get my hands on and coach.
Next up is John Petishnock, happyvalley.com.
Hey, good morning, Phil. Appreciate the time and hope you and your family are doing well.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, when you were hired, in addition to your coaching talent, James talked about it being a draw that you're from the region, and when that happens, the likelihood of stability increases. So along those lines, what does it mean to return to the region where you grew up? And is Penn State a place where you can see yourself staying for, maybe 5 years or longer?
Yeah, for me, this was a dream for me when I was hoping to play here. But now I have an opportunity to coach here. I'm from South Jersey. Penn State growing up was Penn State. Everyone talked about it like it was a school to go to. So to coach here, it's a dream for me. And I'm buying a house here. I see myself staying here as long as I can, and long as everything goes as planned. But I love it here. This was special, and this is a goal, and this is where I could see myself being for a very long time.
Coach, I think I'm up. I think Greg has himself muted, but good morning. Caden Wallace, what makes him a ideal tackle for the future, and just how close is he to that starting competition there at right tackle or any spot along your offensive line?
Yeah, I think for him, he's versatile. I think he can play tackle. And then I also think he can play guard. He's massive. He's like 330, 335, has really good feet. He's learning the game of football. His football IQ is getting better. Just being able to do the meetings I've done with these guys, he's a guy that's definitely bought in and wants to understand every position, because I think he understands the value of that. And I think he has the ability to play anywhere on the offensive line. But he's battling right now for, a right tackle spot. And also he can be my sixth guy, or a guy that I plug in at guard and tackle, because I want guys that play everything. And he's one of those guys that I can see play anywhere on the offensive line.
Next up is Rich Scarcella, Reading Eagle.
Good morning, Phil. Thanks for your time. Phil, in general, how difficult is it for a fourth-year offensive lineman or lineman to adjust to a new position coach? And a follow-up, what have you seen, now that you've had a little bit more time, what have you seen from Michael Menet on film, and what kind of leadership has he shown?
He's definitely, him and Fries are the two leaders in the O-line room, just because they have the experience, and guys look up to him because they played for a long time. And for Menet, he's bought in, from day one. He's been talking with me about technique. He's been, trying to ask me things, and what can I do and how can I get better? And, he's been, leading extra groups, extra meetings with the offensive line. He's a guy that, it's my third time going over the offense and installing it, and he's starting all over, writing all the notes. And I think guys are looking at that, and it's helping guys buy into, what I'm preaching. And for him to be that guy, it's huge. If he didn't believe in me, then I know that it would be hard. So the first thing I did was build a relationship with them and made sure that those guys, the older guys, believed in me. And so that helps them. So, when we're talking about technique, he's bought in, and he knows that, what I've what we've done or what I've done before, and what I'm showing them works. And that's what, coaching is all about, is getting them to buy in. A lot of coaches out there have many different techniques, have many different things, but at the end of the day, if you get your offensive line to believe in what you do and how you do it, you'll be successful. If there was a coach out there that said, "Hey, just punch with one arm," and all the offensive line believed in it, then they would be the best one-arm punchers in the world. But I don't teach that. I teach two-arm, but just getting them to believe in that. And Bennett's one of those guys that has, and he's been buying in.
Audrey Snyder, The Athletic.
Hey, Phil, thanks for your time this morning. You mentioned earlier kind of a sixth guy in Caden as that possibility, but the guy we saw last year was Des Holmes and his ability to help out at both tackle spots. What have you been able to see from Des so far, and what do you think is kind of necessary for him to take that next step?
Yeah, Des again is one of those guys that's believing in the football IQ part, understanding the game of football, and the workouts that I saw, he was working really hard. He's driven. He's a guy that I think can play. Again, I think he can play guard and he can play tackle. He could play both left and right, guard and tackle. So he's a guy that can play 4 positions, which I think is key in developing him and being able to have that depth. So he was a 6th guy last year, but I feel like you need 10 guys to go into a game that are ready to play in all positions.
Next up is Nubias Wilbur, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette.
Hey, Coach, how are you, man?
I'm good.
I feel you. What has CJ Thorpe meant to not only the roster now, but at least throughout this time of getting guys acclimated and helping guys out with his experience?
Yeah, he's another guy that's the good thing about this offensive line is you have experience. You have a lot of guys that played, and a lot of guys that played some big time football. So that's really good. And then for him, he's a guy that also is buying into the technique. He's he's been kind of getting away with his athleticism. Help him because he's powerful in the weight room. Like, he's one of the strongest in the weight room. He's conditioning wise, he's always the guy that it does good in that part, like last station and Matra or spring workouts, winter workouts. He's step he has to get technically and fundamentally sound, which is huge, and he's buying into that.
Next up is Tyler Donahue, Lions 247.
Good morning, Phil. Good to hear from you. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Good morning. Thank you.
Getting into specific names because I know you can't. You've enjoyed some recruiting success at the offensive line position of late. Just curious on your thoughts on how that is going so far, and some of the more highly ranked recruits on your board are on the offense. Additionally, Tyler Bowen, how much of a boost is he in that process with his history at the position?
Yeah, Tyler is, he's awesome. He's helping me. He's been here and he knows, what we want, and he's kind of just, my guy. I mean, he's helping me. We're both young. He's actually younger than me, which is crazy. I think he's 30 or 31, about to be 31. So he's a great guy just to being able to talk with about offensive line, and he's played it. I think, he's definitely an offensive line guy in his background, but I know his goals at the end of the day want to be, a big time coordinator, and he's just awesome. And, recruiting is fun. I'd be able to build relationships with really good football players and help them along the way. And I could see them, there's a lot of great offensive lines out there, or linemen out there in this all these classes, coming young guys, and being able to be in that is huge, and just building one day.
Next up is Bob Flounders, Penn Live.
Hi, Phil. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Phil, two questions. I noticed you've been asked about does he kind of factor in your 2020 plans? He's a guy that's had to deal with, I know, a significant injury a couple years back. Where's he at, and what are your thoughts on Will?
Yeah, Will is awesome. He's a guy that will just send me clips of NFL clips, and I mean he's always doing extra stuff. He showed me a picture of a punching bag he built in the backyard. Like that's the mentality that I love. That's the mentality I want my offensive line. As you know, offensive season for him. This is the big year for him. I think he's taking it that way, and he wants to be, all Big Ten, and he wants to be drafted. I mean, that's his mindset, and I think he has the ability to. He has great feet, and he just loves the game of football, and I think a lot of organizations will love that in him because that's what you want. You don't want guys that, have been getting through with their talent. You want guys that want to be great, and that pushes your offensive line and that pushes your organization. So I'm excited about Will. He's a leader, and when we talk about the tackles, and a lot of guys, believe in him. So it's big. And then Juice is doing awesome. He was working. He did everything this winter with me, and technique is getting better. He's starting to play in his legs again, and I feel like he's a guy that also can play all five. Going into the spring, we were going to put him at center, but he's also has athletic and feet to play tackle, and then he has the power in his legs to play guard. So he's a guy that will play all five, and keeping him healthy is my job, and I'm going to do everything I can to make that happen and get him fundamentally sound and technically sound, so he's not putting himself in any harm.
Next up is Mike Gross in Lancaster. Oh. Mike, you there? There you go.
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead.
Hearing me?
Yep.
Yeah, we got
We can
you.
Uh,
hear you.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Made a number of references so far to technique and guys building up their technique. Is there anything that you teach that is maybe in terms of technique that's going to be maybe different for these guys?
Yeah, a little bit. Just my mindset is in the run game, you play in your legs. I do a little core mechanics, which basically I bring my hands slightly back on my first step, and I bring my hands with my second step. So we're always playing in our legs. I always ask everyone, I can ask all you, do you squat more, you bench more? Most likely you're going to say you squat more, right? So as an offensive lineman, let's get them to play in their legs. Let's get them to play in their insteps of their feet. So they're always in maximum power. So being able to do that, to get them to feel that, to play in their legs, takes a little bit of time. And then when we talk about pass pro, it's all about, staying, I'm a big two-hand punch guy. I want to be, violent with my hands. I want to get separation. There's a lot of different philosophies out there on punches and, one hand, outside hand. I'm good with that, but till we are great with two-hand punches, then we'll do all the other stuff. So that's something that, two-hand punches is a little bit different for them. But overall, they're, they understand the, always be in power, always be in your legs and stuff like that. So it's been a little bit of adjustment.
Next up is Dottie Collins, Times Tribune.
Hey, Phil, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Anthony Wigan, a guy who redshirted last year. I know they really liked his potential at the junior college level. What have you seen from him early on, and how close is he to being one of the 10 guys you're looking for?
Yeah. He's definitely, right off the bat, I could tell he's naturally plays in his legs. He has great leg drive, great leg power. He's a guy that I think can, have a very good role for us, and he's thinking that way. Like, he's doing extra meetings with Minute, and he kind of has that mindset that he wants to get on the field. He knows that, his journey has been different than a lot of other guys going to junior college, and sometimes I like that because that gives him drive, and that gives him, the mindset that he wants to get on that field. And he's been doing everything we ask him, and I can see him, being one of those guys that you guys are, we're playing someone, he's in, and there's no stopping us.
Next up is Joe Giuliano of Philadelphia Inquirer.
Good morning, Phil. Being from South Jersey, I'd like to ask you some bio information. Where did you grow up your whole life in Voorhees? Where did you go to high school? And what were your accolades during high school? And did you ever consider Penn State for college?
Yep. So my dad was in the Air Force, so I actually was born in Texas, but we ended up moving a lot till second grade. I moved to South Jersey. I actually moved to Voorhees, went to Crescent Elementary School. Then I went to middle school in South Jersey, and then I went to high school at Eastern High School, which is the same actually as Adam Terraferro. So, for me, actually, when that happened, everything that happened, I was a freshman. So that kind of got my, also thinking about Penn State. And, we always looked at Adam. We actually read Adam's book as a senior. So that was something that's always been, and he's actually reached out to me, which was cool. And someone that I actually looked up to, and what he did and how he overcome it, kind of just made me, think about it, and actually probably motivated me to drive and to overcome a lot of things that I had to overcome. So that was that. Accolades, I actually didn't get all South Jersey. I wasn't all state. We had a really good team. We actually won our Group 4 state championship at Eastern. It was the first one ever in 2004. So we won a state championship in football my senior year. And then, of course, my story is I wanted to go to Penn State. I actually came here actually with a broken foot. I had a broken foot. I came here as going into my senior year and tried to come to camp. It was actually a Nike camp, and I didn't get offered. So the next day I had to put a boot on because I was actually supposed to be in a boot for the camp, but I told the doctor, no, I'm going try to get an offer from Penn State. Probably didn't do too well because of the broken foot, but I ended up not getting an offer, and then ended up getting an offer late from Florida, and I went to Florida. So that's my story.
And last up, we have Nate Bauer with Blue White Illustrated.
Hey, Phil. What have your initial impressions been of Mike Miranda?
Good. Mike is, he's quiet, but you talk about, I kind of know what to talk to him about, and he gets open when you finally get to know him, and he's a big cooker. He loves to cook, so that's kind of like my way of talking to him and getting him to open up, start a conversation. But he's an awesome kid. He loves football. He wants to be great. His role was going to be the center in spring, and he was going to take it. And then he was also going to have to learn both guards. So he's a guy that can play, all of the inside positions. And, he's a great kid. And I feel like he has an opportunity to, play at the next level and keep growing as a player and show as much, positive stuff on film. And him playing all three, I think, will help him. And then he's really strong. I mean, he deadlifts like 600 pounds, and he has that too. So overall, a really good player.